Hare Krishna, everyone. I hope you're well. It's the 14th of March 2020, Saturday the 14th of March 2020, and I thought I would just check in and do a Facebook Live. I read a book yesterday and was encouraged to read a few things that I found quite inspiring. As many of you who keep in touch with what's going on in the world will know, that the end times are near. There's a virus spreading all over the world, which in one sense is quite scary on a very material level. There is a virus that there isn't a vaccine for, is spreading, and it's building up, particularly here in Europe. I'm trying to take a much more philosophical view about what's going on. We know as Vaishnavas, it's not the end of the material world just yet. There are 427,000 years left of this yuga, of Kali Yuga. It started 5,000 years ago with the descent, not the birth, the descent of Lord Krishna himself. And we're currently living in this golden age of Lord Chaitanya of 10,000 years, where we can get close to God, get close to Krishna, and we can chant the holy names. So I just wanted to check in and to see how you're all doing. I went down to Glastonbury yesterday, Friday the 13th. I went to Glastonbury to get away from the news. I went for a wonderful walk up the Tor, and I went and sat in a wonderful vegan store and did some reading. Many of you will know that Gaudiya Vaishnavism has quite a strong presence in Glastonbury. What I would have said to you 2 months ago is that descendants of Nityananda Prabhu are quite active in Glastonbury, but we're all descendants of all different acharyas now in terms of the research that I've discovered. But certainly there's a lot of disciples of of various Babajis and Maharajas that come from Vrindavan. They're based in Glastonbury, but I wasn't there yesterday to meet any of them or to research them. Yesterday I spent some time reading a book called, you might not be able to see it because I've got a Facebook Live around the wrong way, called The Droplets of Nectar by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Ballabha Tirtha Maharaj. And Srila Bhakti Ballabha Tirtha Maharaj is not someone I've really talked about much on my Facebook page as part of my research. I've talked a lot about other disciples and grand disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. I've talked about Srila Prabhupada. I've talked about Narayan Maharaj. I've talked about Sri Sridhar Maharaj. I've talked about, very briefly, Puri Maharaj, and I've talked about lots of other stuff, but I've not really mentioned or talked about the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya mat. So the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya mat is another sangha or another mat that stems from the original Gaudiya mat, if you like, that Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur founded. And to not confuse you, just to be absolutely clear, the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya mat is different from the Sri Gopinath Gaudiya mat and the Sri Chaitanya Sarasvat mat. The Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya mat was founded in 1953 in India, of all places, in 1953 by Srila Bhakti Daita Madhava Goswami Maharaj. Srila Bhakti Daita Madhava Goswami Maharaj was a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. Therefore, he was a godbrother of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Sridhar Maharaj and Puri Maharaj. Bhakti Daita Madhava Goswami Maharaj left his body in 1979, so in the grand scheme of things, not that long ago. And he left the mat that he founded, the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya mat, to his successor, who was a bit more well known in the West, Srila Bhakti Ballabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj. And I'll show you a picture of him without losing the page I want to read you, if I can, because he's quite... some of you might recognize him. So he was, for many years, many decades, the president acharya of the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya mat. He came to the West. He travelled actually all over the world. He was inspired by his Shiksha Guru, Puri Maharaj, to travel to places over the world. He is actually on, he and the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya mat are actually on the list of groups or sanghas or mats in the UK, because there is a devotee, a wonderful devotee, living just north of Brighton who took Brahmin initiation. Some devotees will call that second initiation. He took Brahmin initiation from Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. There we go. And so he's on this list. So they do have, in some capacity or another, an active presence in the UK. So I was doing some reading. Oh, the page has come open easily. I thought I'd lost the page. So I was doing some reading of this book yesterday, wanting some inspiration, as we're now in the end times due to the coronavirus outbreak. I wanted a bit of inspiration just to remind me about what Krishna consciousness is all about, what we're all about, and really, I guess, to have faith. Faith isn't a word we often use, is it, in Gaudiya Vaishnavism? It's not a word we often use in Bhakti Yoga, because generally we're taught by the acharyas that Krishna exists whether we have faith in him or not. If we are in the shadows and we do not see the sun is still shining. It's not an issue of faith, it's an issue of science. So faith isn't really something, the concept we use, like the Christians use faith or the Muslims use faith. We don't use it the same. But however, we should have some faith in Sastra. Another word we could use would be acceptance. We should accept Sastra. We should accept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Again, whether we accept it or not, it is true. We have confidence in that based on the acharyas and the and the scriptures. So just to have some faith, I guess, in Krishna consciousness during these troubled times going around the world, happening around the world, with the spread of the virus. So I'm just going to read a little bit of the Droplets of Nectar, which was a small booklet put together by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's disciples in 2003. It was compiled through some of his writings and some of his emails. He, as I say, didn't actually pass away or leave his body until 2017. So this was put together a good 15 years before he left. And I'm just going to read something that I found quite encouraging. So, if one proclaims himself to be a Hindu, a Muslim, or a Jew or a Christian, these things can be changed. By altering one's mode of dress, language, or rituals, a Muslim can become a Christian, etc. However, the essential element which lies at the root of these different faiths is devotion to God. Whether one is a Hindu, a Jew, or whatever, to claim to be religious must surely mean that one is a servant of God. This fact cannot be changed. In Sanskrit, this is known as Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan, or Sanatana, of an A on the end, means eternal. And Dharma, in this context, means that activity which is intrinsic to one's very existence. Some translate it as duty. Just as heat is an intrinsic quality of fire. What is the nature of that activity? That one is eternally serving? Service is not something we can choose to do or not to do. What is the living being who is not serving? One serves one's employer, one's parents, one's children, husband, wife, pets, and even inanimate things such as cars, etc. From birth to death, service is there. The choice which we can make, however, is who or what it is to be the object of our service. Krishna is the only true object of service. Krishna is eternally existing, and the Jiva Atmas are also eternally existing. The relationship between them is also eternally existing. Bhakti, or Sanatan Dharma, is the link between God and his devotees. Love of God is independent of caste, colour, or creed. Sincerity of heart is the only requirement. So this material world is temporary, and unfortunately, or fortunately, which way you put it, you look at it, these material bodies are also temporary. But what is eternal is our relationship with the Supreme Lord, our relationship with Krishna. So those are some encouraging words I read from His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Bhadavatirtha Goswami Maharaj, previous President Acharya of the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Mat. As I say, the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Mat is on this list of English mats and sanghas because Maharaj does have at least one disciple living in the Brighton area. Some questions I want to put back to any of you that might be listening or might be sharing this Facebook page and sharing this film with others is, and I've been able to find this, online, who is or was the successor to Srila Bhakti Bhadavatirtha Goswami Maharaj? In other words, who is the current Acharya or the current President Acharya of the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Mat? The website hasn't been updated for a few years, and the Facebook page has not been updated for a few years as well. What I have discovered, though, is that, I want to get the name absolutely right, is that Maharaj did also go on to found Gokul. So Gokul stands for the Global Organization of Krishna Chaitanya's Universal Love. Just say that again. He was the founder of Gokul, Global Organization of Krishna Chaitanya's Universal Love, which was founded by him. I'm not sure of the date, but it was definitely before 2017. And what's the current situation or existence of Gokul, the Global Organization of Krishna Chaitanya's Universal Love? Does it exist? How many members does it have? Does it have any members in the UK? So those are the pieces of information I'm keen to know, is who was or is the successor to Srila Bhakti Bhadavatirtha Maharaj, and what is the current status of Gokul, the Global Organization of Krishna Chaitanya's Universal Love. Signing out on the 14th of March 2020, and hoping, God willing, inshallah, Krishna's arrangement, that I'll be still in this body in a few weeks' time to provide some more updates. Thank you. Hare Krishna.